President of Channel 7 News Australia.
Gentlemen, thank you. Minister Marles, you're a hard man to track down. I've had to come all the way to the Philippines to ask you a question about accountability. But I'll give it a go. When will you finally admit that the Australian Defence Force is woefully under-equipped thanks to your current budgetary spend?
Well, thank you for the question, and really happy to answer that question anywhere, including very much in Australia, and of course I've answered questions of that kind frequently in Australia, but obviously
But nothing's changed.
But I completely reject the assertion of the question. I mean, when we came to government, we inherited a lot of challenges associated with our Defence Force. We engaged in the biggest root and branch review of our strategic circumstances, of the state of our Defence Force, of the kind of Defence Force that we need to build.
But there's been multiple reviews, Minister, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it started with you or with your government. I think it's fair to say it's been through successive governments. But what are you doing now, today, to make it better and fix it? Because this is all very nice. This is fantastic shop window, but you don't want to be known as Minister for Showbags. There's got to be substance to it.
Well, really happy to answer the question if you'll allow me to answer it. And, you know, there is significant steps that we have taken, and if I can complete what I just said, you know, when we went through the Defence Strategic Review, we worked out what sort of Defence Force we need to build in order to meet the strategic challenge that we face. Now, what that has resulted in is two things, to answer your question. One is an unprecedented level of reprioritisation of the existing defence spend, so that we are focused upon building a Defence Force which has the capacity to project. And the second thing that it's done is seen the biggest peacetime increase in defence spending in Australian history. Now, that's the fact. I get that.
That's voodoo mathematics.
It's not voodoo.
Well, you're not taking into account inflation or the rising cost of weaponry or the Australian dollar's performance against the greenback. All of those things have eaten into that budget. All of them are more expensive.
Well, obviously, if you want to make a speech, you can do that. But the fact of the matter is, when you actually look at what we have done, we have taken into account all of the factors that you have just described, and it has given rise, even with all of that, to the single biggest peacetime increase in defence spending in Australia's history. Now, you know, that might fit whatever narrative you're trying to put to air, but that is in fact...
But there's no narrative. There's no narrative.
May I, Liam, excuse me, let's give the floor to others also to ask questions.
That is in fact what has occurred. And the result of that is that we are seeing a surface combatant in terms of our fleet being brought into service 5 years quicker than what we inherited when we came to office. We are now seeing longer range missiles and missile manufacturing happening in Australia way ahead of what we inherited, such that that manufacturing is commencing this year. We're seeing significant steps being taken down the path of Australia acquiring a long-range submarine capability under the banner of AUKUS with our nuclear-powered submarine capability. We are seeing a much more amphibious army. We are seeing unprecedented investments in our northern bases, and I could keep going. In fact, all of these are happening, and it is about meeting the strategic moment that we face.
Thank you very much. The last question will come from Ron Kalunsod of Kyodo News.
Good afternoon. Thank you for providing us a picture of how the Philippines and Australia would step up the two countries' defense cooperation by citing the envisioned enhanced defense cooperation agreement by next year. I'd just like to ask, is this going to be similar to the Philippines-US EDCA? Will this be a treaty or
no.
An executive agreement?
No. It will not. It will not be like the EDCA, definitely. We will work on the appropriate arrangements as our forces find out what they need. EDCA is an offshoot of a mutual defense treaty and not a visiting forces agreement, so that is a fundamental difference. So we will work out the appropriate arrangements, but we need, in order to operationalize the status of visiting forces agreement with Australia more facilities to service them for increased tempo of joint exercises and joint activities.
There was a mention of infrastructure plans. Can you tell us